Today, I found out after waiting 11 and a half months that even though I am fast enough to qualify for the Boston Marathon, I'm not actually fast enough to run the Boston Marathon. I always knew this is how the process works. I'll explain what's weird about it, why it takes so long to find out if you can get into the race, and why it's going to be even harder to get in next year. So, back in October 2023, I ran the Chicago Marathon, my best race ever. 500,000 of you saw it on TikTok. I loved every minute of it. And I hit my goal. I qualified for the Boston Marathon. As a 40-year-old, I have to run 3 hours, 10 minutes in the marathon to qualify into the Boston Marathon, the more prestigious Boston Marathon, the one that's coming up here in April 2025. Problem is, they only have so many spots for time qualifiers in the Boston Marathon. This year, today, the BAA, the Boston Athletic Association, announced that they're letting in 24,069 runners, but they can only let in the fastest. So just because you qualify, I am a Boston qualifying marathoner, that just gives you the opportunity to apply. They had a record number of applicants this year, 36,000 people. The number keeps going up, and that may be like special shoes that everyone's wearing, more people getting into the sport. There's a bunch of reasons why it's getting faster and harder every year. But this year they had a record number of applicants, so they have to turn away like 12,000 people, and I'm one of those people that wasn't quite fast enough. So once they identify who is the fastest in that group, they announce what's called a cutoff, pretty much saying, yeah, the standard was 3:10, and sure, Griffin, you may have run a 3:04. You were 5 minutes, 51 seconds faster than the qualifying time. Good for you. But actually this year you had to run 6:51. So the cutoff this year was pretty aggressive, a whole minute faster than I ran. So I'm definitely not in. The people that did have that time faster than their qualifying standard, the qualifying standards are different for every age group and for males and females, but everyone has to hit that cutoff underneath their qualifying time to actually have a place in the Boston Marathon. I always knew this is how it worked, and I was at peace with this because I knew that I may not get in. I really just wanted to hit the qualifying time, so I was very proud of myself for getting in way under 3:10, and I also kind of was at peace with this because I knew from the beginning that my Chicago Marathon experience was so amazing. I was like, I don't think the Boston Marathon can compare to the day I had in Chicago, and I still feel that way. So I don't really feel like I'm missing out too much. The reason this takes so long to find out, why it took almost a year, is because there's a year-long qualifying window from September to September every year to get into the April Boston Marathon. So it just so happens that Chicago is one of the first marathons in October that falls into the it's the beginning of the qualifying window. So the Chicago Marathon coming up in a month here in October will qualify for the 2026 Boston Marathon. I'm running this race. I suppose if I have a really good day, I could potentially qualify for the next one in April 2026. Boston, though, has announced it's going to be even harder to get into that one, though, recognizing that this is a pretty high cutoff this year, 6 minutes, 51 seconds. And that they had to reject so many people. They don't want to do that every year. So they're actually making the standards harder, 5 minutes harder for the qualification times across every age group except for the 60-year-olds and up. So 18 to 59-year-olds, everyone has to get 5 minutes faster. In reality, that just means next year's cutoff will probably be about 5 minutes less, or it could be 3 minutes less. Hopefully it won't be 6:51 again, but it could be 2 minutes faster than those already faster standards. So now as a 40-year-old, I don't have to run a 3:10, I have to run a 3:05 at Chicago this year if I wanted to qualify again. But then, just like this year, 3:05 probably wouldn't be enough. You'd probably actually have to get in a few minutes below that. So that's how Boston works. I know it's a complicated process, but I do get to say still I'm a Boston qualifying marathoner, just not someone who gets to run the Boston Marathon this upcoming year. I think, though, what I will do instead is probably run the OSR 30, this really cool 30-mile race around New York City. It happens probably a week or two before the Boston Marathon. I ran it this year and loved it. And so I had already told myself when I saw that there was a record number of applicants this year to Boston that yeah, I'm probably not going to get in, but at least I get to run this really cool race in New York instead. So good luck, everyone. Hopefully that makes sense. I'll talk to you later.